because I want to try to get through a lot of stuff. Okay, so we went through all these different bones, right? So we're going to know the different bones and different landmarks on those bones. So, like here, if we talk about, in this point, you need to know where the suprascapular fossa is. So that's going to be in this area here, above the spine of the scapula. And we've gone through these things before, where you have, the medial border, inferior angle, lateral border, lateral angle, all the different parts of the scapula. And those are on your palpation sheets. I know we've gone over a lot of those. And if you remember, we've gone over this stuff. If you have any questions on it, when we go over, we'll go through the groups again and go over just the details. Then you have the greater and lesser tuberosities. And then the biceps tendon in between. So then you want to know the origin insertion of the biceps, how it crosses. One part goes through the corporate process, one's through the top of the glenoid fossa. And we've gone over all this, the different angles of the scapula, and copying the AC joint. Corporate process, deltoid tuberosity. And then we've done that before, where you find the biceps tendon between the two tuberosities. What's that? It's usually, you can usually find it through the groove here, in the intertrabecular groove. Or there's sometimes on certain points where it'll talk about lateral to the bicipital tendon at the cubital crease, something like that. Yeah, you may be able to find both. And then just know the basic actions of the shoulder muscles, stuff that we've gone over before, right?
Is this for the palpation once you have action, or for the palpation final, or for the action?
The only stuff that's going to be on the palpation final is what you got on those sheets there. Yeah, this is a review for two things. It's for palpation, plus it's also for the written final too. So kind of combining things together.
So we won't have any questions on the palpation, it'll literally just be big out.
Say that again?
It'll just literally be fine, the palpation.
Yeah, that sheet that you have, it's going to be cut into little pieces in 10 different groups, and you're going to be handed one of those.
It's going to be the same thing that he's been doing the last 2 times.
Okay, so no questions on what the muscle does?
No.
Yeah, it's all this, that one handout, that's what you need to know, that's it. No points.
We'll ask you 2 or 3 more times, but
Okay. We'll still get the same answer, but that's okay. So then, understand the different things about how it does the different motions of the scapula. And we talked about rotation, protraction, retraction, and things like that.
what is rotation?
You have downward rotation, which is this way of the scapula, and then upward rotation. Think of it in terms of what does it do to the glenoid fossa. So we're only talking about the scapula itself. If the glenoid fossa moves up, it's upward rotation. If it moves down, it's downward rotation. So then, on some of those sheets, it talks about the upper trap, middle trap, lower trap. So it's just a general area. It's not like there's a certain tendon that you can find for the trap. But that's where knowing the origin insertion is going to come in. So there's not going to be questions on the palpation on the origin insertion, but the more you know about the muscles, it's going to help you to know the different divisions of it. Okay, and then palpation-wise, you can find that the trap fibers are going to run more this way, whereas, like say for example, the splenius is going to run more this direction. The trap's going to run more like that. So then, yeah, if you're palpating and you're finding the lower trap, it'll just be down here, and then the middle trap, upper trap. So then going through these different muscles, so these two, the latissimus dorsi, what kind of rotation does that do on the upper arm? Internal rotation. They come from the back, but they go towards the front, so they're going to do internal rotation. Whereas the teres minor and the infraspinatus is going to do external rotation. And then what's the other muscle on the front of the scapula that does internal rotation? Subscapularis. And then somebody's asking about what's the anterior axillary fold and the posterior axillary fold. Anterior is going to be pec major. Posterior is going to be mostly the lat and the teres. Supraspinatus, infra. So you can find different things where you can palpate the muscle. We did some of those things where if you try to do almost like muscle testing where you try to activate the muscle, then you're going to feel the belly of the muscle contract. So there's subscapularis and the rhomboids, the later scap. We did this before with the serratus, where if somebody's pushing forward, that's going to activate the serratus muscle. Okay. So then on the biceps, here's a different, usually when you're talking about the tendon up here, or you're talking about the tendon down here. So then there, where you're palpating it in between the groove and the triceps. Okay, so we get into the forearm and the hand, and some of those are on there with palpation points. And basically, what are these muscles generally called? What group? What action do they do? Flexors, extensors. And then on the on this handout, there's a typo where it's on the other one with all the numbers. It's cubital crease on here. I think that the other one says cubial or some other weird spelling. Anyway. Yeah, and the one that says muscles on the top, it says cubical, and it's actually cubital crease, which is on the front of the elbow, when you flex your elbow like that. But on the one with all the numbers, it's spelled right on there. So you want to be able to pick out the different, when we're talking about if any of the forearm muscles are on there, usually it's going to apply to the tendon because that has to do with when you do point location. Like here, it's going to talk about between the tendons of the palmaris longus and flexor carpi ulnaris. Also, you need to know like the styloid process on the radius and the ulna. That's a lot of times mentioned. Like here, between the radial artery and the epicondylus longus. So that's why some of those different landmarks are going to become important. Again, you don't have to know points. This is just why you need to know the locations on the different palpation landmarks. Like here, it says near the styloid process of the ulna. So you have the styloid of the radius here. And then we've gone through these different things here where you palpate the olecranon, and then you have the epicondyles. We can palpate the head of the radius here on the pronation supination. And these are the different things that we've gone over. Remember, if you find the pisiform, it's right here, the triquetrium's right on the other side. And then what direction would I move to find the hook of the hamate? And use the, what anatomical terms would you say for the direction? Okay. I go, what's that? Lateral or medial? Yeah, so it is lateral. Okay. When in doubt, go back to anatomical position. Or on the radial side.
Distal and lateral.
Yeah, so you'd say lateral, distal and lateral to the from the bone that sticks out here. The hook of the hamate is a little bit deeper, but you can feel it as the bony prominence. If you go to the edge of it, then it drops off into the more of the palm of the hand.